Hey. Time for another Out of This World story from our space. If it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it probably is a duck. Today on our space, if they seem too perfect and they admit they like to live dangerously, do yourself a favor and run. Call my wife cheating on me with her not straight friend, so I destroy her at family dinner. I'm 42, male. She's 37, female. We met at work. I work as a sound engineer at a football stadium. She came one summer and applied for stadium maintenance and cleaning. I noticed her for the first time during a game. The stadium manager gave the new employees a tour around the stadium. She stood out much from all the regular employees. For one, she wore expensive clothing, had an expensive phone, and drove a Range Rover that I'm sure cost a lot. And dang was she beautiful. I thought, wow, where has she been hiding? She didn't look like this for a person that needed to work. I had my eyes on her for a whole month and didn't really know how to talk to her. She had this sad look in her eyes and kept mostly to herself. I tried to get some info about her from Stan, the stadium manager, and a childhood friend. But turns out, no one knew exactly who she was or what her story was. Only thing was she was from Wisconsin, and she was 34, and came from serious money. Though that didn't matter in any way to me. Stan said if I wanted to know more, why didn't I just talk to her? He said she'd be working overtime cleaning the stadium after games, and there was still an opening, and he'd let me sign up. I did. After the games that week, I joined the cleaning crew to help pick up trash and clean. She showed up too. After an hour of picking up trash and cleaning seats everywhere except where she stood, and staring at her like an idiot, making awkward eye contact, she smiled and waved. I still remember that first smile. I had never seen her smile before. It was beautiful. Although I was very awkward, her smile was all the encouragement I needed to approach. She asked me if I could help her with a trash bag, and I said yes. We didn't talk much after that, but I got her name. We'll call her Karen. We ran into each other sporadically for some time after that. We met and helped each other with after-game cleanups. We talked mostly about me. She'd avoid personal questions whenever I asked. I blended on the setting, which wasn't exactly the best, so I decided to orchestrate more encounters off work. My chance came one Saturday after the cleanups. She had car troubles, and I asked her if I could give her a ride. She declined and said she'd just wait for a taxi. After a few minutes, I drove out of the premises to find her still waiting for the taxi. We both laughed, and then I offered her a ride again, which she accepted this time. The car ride home was one of the most golden memories I'll have of us. The sun was setting slowly in the distance. Michael Bublé's Call Me Irresponsible blasting out of the speakers, and both of us singing along and laughing. Her whole demeanor had changed from quiet, distant, and generally mysterious to radiant, free, and very beautiful. Her hair was down, the wind in it, and her eyes sparkled. I fell in love with her instantly. I dropped her off and she smiled and thanked me for the ride. I put on my big boy pants and asked her if she'd love to go out sometime, on a date. She stared at me for a while, what seemed to be an eternity to me, and then smiled and said yes. She said she would as a way of thanking me for the ride, and being nice to her in general. We went out for sushi some days after. The date started off weirdly at first, but after a couple of drinks, we eased up a bit and talked more. We seemed to share a lot in common, how we both love seafood, the same types of wine, etc. I asked her why she didn't talk much about herself. She says she didn't feel like it most of the time. Turns out Karen's dad had a successful steel factory in Wisconsin. Being an only child from a Jewish family, growing up wasn't that much fun. Her dad was Jewish. Her mom had Jewish ancestry, but wasn't. And so far, her dad wasn't impressed with the choice of men she brought home. She'd been disowned twice, cut off completely, and that was why she needed a job at the stadium, so she didn't need to rely on him for money. She dated a lot of people in the past, and they ranged from a lot of character types, from drug dealers to ex-convicts to toxic nut jobs. I saw why her dad didn't approve. She explained to me one time that she had a thing for broken, damaged people, in living dangerously. Although I still couldn't wrap my head around why someone like this would want to have anything to do with those kinds of people. That night ended very well. I could tell she liked me. At the time, she was fresh out of a relationship with an abusive drug dealer. Her dad had forced her to leave. She refused, so he cut her off. She finally left him because the police had caught her in possession of hard drugs in her car. Her boyfriend had left them there during one of his runs. She had lost her nursing license because of that and broke up with him. For 6 months, she gave me conflicting signals. Come here, then go away. kept me confused for some time, but I didn't lose hope. We flirted for over a year before I saw enough positive response to pursue a bit more purposefully. She asked me to help her pack up her things to move. She got in a place not too far from mine, although she struggled with rent and cash. She sold her Rover to pay for the place. I told her it would be best if she made up with her dad. She agreed on the condition that I had to come along to a family function. She and I talked in the parking lot after that, then she gave me a hug, which felt incredible. I know I wanted more of that kind of contact. She said it felt awesome as well, but she made herself very scarce for the next week. It seemed like our courtship took forever. After some months, she invited me to accompany her to Wisconsin for a family party. The drive was long, but we arrived nonetheless. When we got there, she introduced me to her mom and dad as her boyfriend. It surprised me, but who was I to complain? I and her dad got off pretty well. He wasn't so bad. A little overprotective, but not so bad. We both were die-hard Met fans, which gave us a lot to talk about. I guess he was just pleased I wasn't some drug dealer or ex-convict or anything like that. He and I had huge respect for each other, and when he asked what my plans were for his daughter, I smiled and told him I intended to marry her, and he was pleased with this. The dinner went well, and we drove home. In the car, she said, "I guess we're going out now." I dropped her off and officially asked her out, to which she kissed me and said yes. We started seeing each other, and months after, I moved in with her. Our life was perfect, and we were very happy. I proposed a year later, and we got married at a small country club in Wisconsin. The years after were nothing but bliss. She had petitioned for her license to be reinstated, and after a series of ordeals, she got reinstated back as a nurse. We already had talked about starting a family. I still worked at the stadium. We were happy. Things were good between us for a while. But then issues started to arise, especially issues about money. She'd been spoiled growing up, and although she had said money didn't mean much to her when we were dating, she sure did prove otherwise. She had uncontrollable spending habits, always buying expensive branded bags. Her mom always had an extra $1,000 to borrow from her. I didn't like it, and the fact she always got money for her parents, it still treated her like a 17-year-old girl. I talked to them about it, and her dad understood perfectly what I was trying to say. Her mom, not so much. We got into a big fight. She was furious. I told her parents to stop giving her money and said I embarrassed her. Things went downhill from there as other habits started to surface. For one, she wasn't responsible. She loved to party and hang out late, like a college girl, drinking and partying every time she could. Her dad owned shares in the hospital she worked, so they gave her special treatment. She showed up whenever she wanted. Her chief nursing officer had called and complained 1,000 times and said if she kept it up, he had no choice but to fire her. We fought a lot about the way she handled things. I told her she was a wife now and soon to be a mother. She had to be accountable. She'd tell me to go to hell, and she was only accountable to herself. She got fired, and it didn't bother her. Her mom at this point basically ignored everything I said and continued to spoil Karen, saying she was a delicate child and wasn't used to suffering, and I wouldn't know anything about that. Some days, she'd come home late. One day, she didn't come home at all. It was 3 a.m. in the morning. I went out to look for her. Her friends had all gone home and were surprised Karen wasn't home. They had personally put her in a cab before leaving. Turns out she stopped the cab and went back to the club after they had left to continue partying. I got to the club and saw her in the parking lot with a large black man in a very inappropriate way. I saw red and rushed at him. We got into a scuffle and exchanged a few blows before the club security intervened. Glad they did, because he had a knife on him and probably would have stabbed me to death with it. I had sustained a few injuries. Karen watched while we fought, crying and begging to stop. We got home and I was so mad, I shook. I couldn't handle the first aid. I wanted her to leave, but she begged and promised to change. The sight of blood and injury seemed to get to her. She was remorseful and guilty. She stayed with me all week, and we talked. I told her if she needed to speak with someone, a therapist or a counselor or something, I'd set that up for her. Clearly, she had a lot of issues. She agreed. She'd been through a lot as a child and teenager. She was neglected much, and her parents had only showered her with gifts and money when she really needed their time, so she turned to the wrong crowd. All the time hanging out with drug dealers and crackheads affected her. I took her to the first session, and she said she felt better after talking to the therapist. I accompanied her to 3 more sessions, and overall, her mood improved, and she seemed more in control now. I talked to her parents about her condition and what had happened the other day in the club, and the fact she had started seeing a therapist. They were horrified. Somehow her mom believed everything was my fault. Her dad understood. She continued to improve. She quit smoking, was home early, and was considering going back to work. Things went well for some weeks. Then she began slipping again. She'd spend all day on her phone texting. When I talked to her, she'd tell me how boring I was or how I was annoying her. When I'd argue about how she was always on her phone, she'd counter that I was the one who wanted her to stay home and go out less. We fought a lot and I was getting sick of it. One day, I decided to surprise her and pick her up from her appointment. She came out of the building, holding hands and laughing with a man I'd never seen before. She introduced the man as Charlie. He had appointments too with her therapist, and they met in therapy. In the car on the way home, when I asked why she was holding Charlie's hand like that, she said I didn't need to worry, and that Charlie wasn't straight. I said, okay. Things were fine for a while. Then, one day, she had gone to her therapist and I left for work. During the games, a buddy of mine, we were work friends, he's a sports camera operator, called me and asked how I was and everything. Then he asked about Karen. Then he asked where was she? Which was a little odd. I told him at her therapist. Why? He said he had a video to show me and didn't want me to freak out. Too late, I was freaked out already. He sent a video to me on WhatsApp. In the middle of the game, he caught sight of my wife in a hat in the crowds with a man I recognized as Charlie. They held hands, and then they kissed. The same Charlie, she said, was not straight. I got so mad, all I remember was my buddy telling me to calm down. I got off work and drove immediately to the shrink's office. Her session wasn't over till the next hour. I called her cell and she didn't pick up. Her therapist informed me that she hadn't seen Karen for a while now, and had been trying to get a hold of me, but for some reason, my new line wasn't going. I hadn't changed lines. Karen had lied that I had lost my phone and had to change lines, gave the therapist the wrong number. I went home, very mad, and waited for her. She came back after a while. I asked her where she had been. She's at therapy. I asked why she didn't pick up her cell. She said she was in therapy at that time and no phones were allowed. I smiled. She had thought this through. I didn't tell her I was at her therapist, and I didn't say anything about the other video either. I wanted her to come clean, so I asked if there was anything she'd like to tell me. She looked at me confused and said no. For days I let her be. She'd go out every day. She said she was going to hang with gay Charlie and her friends, or to therapy, when she was really getting smashed by Charlie all the while. The thought made me angry. She thought I was that dumb. The fact that I just sat and watched, hoping she would somehow come clean and tell me the truth, makes me mad. Weeks passed, and still waited for her. We didn't even speak to each other anymore. When her parents called, she'd act happy and pretend to be a loving wife, so her parents, especially her dad, would keep the paper coming, and she'd have enough to spend. She even invited Charlie over sometimes. The stupid idiot still pretended to be gay. I lost my confidence as a man who was depressed. I couldn't confront her. It was too painful. Things went on like this till the end of the year. I asked her on New Year's Day again if there was anything she'd like to tell me. Her reply was the same. We had the family Passover dinner coming up in April. I had given her enough time to come clean to me and to tell me the truth. I contacted a PI first. I needed all the evidence I could find for what I was about to do. Then I contacted a lawyer and had him draft a divorce. The PI spent weeks collecting photos and some videos of them holding hands in public, them getting into a hotel, their favorite one they used, and even a video of them making out in a car. I compiled everything on a flash drive. Her family celebrated the first day of Pesach, or Passover, with a big dinner, or Seder, as it's called in Judaism. They'd all get together, friends and family, and eat. They'd also bring gifts for each other. We got there late. They had a fight about how she wanted me to wear an expensive suit she got me. I told her I was fine with my regular suits, and they were fine. She went on to say I was acting weird and being annoying. I honestly don't know how I didn't lose at all. She said I'd embarrass her in front of her family and her mother. We got there, and after we had prayed and had dinner, we started exchanging gifts. It was family tradition, and the adults had gathered in the living room. Everyone was there, including Charlie, acting dumb and not straight. It was my turn to give out gifts. For her dad, I got him a Tom Seaver jersey. I knew he'd love it. I got her mom a bottle of wine. She probably hated it, but she smiled anyway. And for her, Karen, a small box containing the flash drive I had all the evidence placed in. She was confused and looked at me weirdly. I told her it contained all the reasons why I was in love with her and some of my best memories with her. Everyone thought it was cute, but she rolled her eyes at me. I told her to play it on the TV for the family, and everyone agreed, and she plugged into the TV's USB port and played the video. When the video began playing, the picture started flying. She didn't move. No one spoke. She began to cry. The look on Charlie's face was priceless. Infidelity was a serious thing for Orthodox Jews like your father. I truly felt sorry for the man. I got up and personally apologized to him for everything, then dropped the divorce papers on the table and told her I needed them signed. She went on her knees and begged, crying, and her mom too. I told her I gave her enough time to come clean to me, and she was only sorry because I had caught her. I went to her dad and apologized for everything. He's a good man, and I felt sorry for him. Being embarrassed with his daughter like that. I got in the car and cried, went home, packed all my things, and left. We got divorced officially some months later. Her family had completely disowned her. Like I said, infidelity is a pretty serious thing among Orthodox Jews. Her mother texts me from time to time, reminding me I'm nothing short of a monster for destroying her daughter's life. I'm happy and move forward. I miss her sometimes, but she did this to us. Last I heard, she got a job at a 7-Eleven and was pregnant for a crackhead. I and her dad still maintain contact and are good friends. Oh boy, red flags. Likes to live dangerously and lost her nursing degree because of drug troubles? Oh dear OP, you should have ran for the hills, and you should never be confused with people who like you. The signs should always be clear. If they're pushing you away and then pulling you back, they're not into you, or their motives aren't pure. I think your mom definitely enabled her behavior, which doesn't help anyone. It's like you want to just say to them, your daughter didn't need the cash, she needed the tough love. She does them around. For people to actually give a crap about her. That's probably why your courtship took forever too. Didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like. All I know is that she has to get her crap together. It's just going to be a disgusting, never-ending cycle of toxicity. Especially now that she's pregnant with a crackhead's baby. I don't think your relationship was ever real, OP. Sorry to break it to you. I think it was just something she used to pretend to be normal. Nothing there to miss.